Morning, guys. Okay, so in this video, we are going to talk all things personal branding. I have been able to build a really powerful personal brand on Instagram, and in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do the same, especially in 2021. So listen, 2020 has been a crazy year for all of us, and I don't know about you, but I am very, very motivated to continue creating my own security and my own stability no matter what's going on in the world. And so in this video, I really want to show you why it could be powerful for you to build your own personal brand. So let's talk about the difference between a personal brand and a normal brand. So in my case, I have, my personal brand, which is me, Natalie Ellis, and then we have BOSSBABE, and BOSSBABE is a brand. It's not a personal brand. It's not necessarily got any faces behind it. Yes, there's me and Danielle and a team, but it's really the brand. It's about the community, and it's the same, with a coffee company, with a laptop company. These are brands versus the actual person behind the brand. Now, the reason that I want to do this video on personal branding is people buy from people. And so if you're just getting started, it's actually a really, really good idea to build a personal brand because you're way more likely to get clients. And then beyond that, if you build a personal brand, the world's your oyster, right? Like you can go from one business to the next. You don't necessarily, have to stick with the one brand that you've built. Let's say you build a coffee company, right? And you decide 1 year down the line, that's not for you. If you have a personal brand, you just pivot and your audience is going to follow. Whereas if you've just built the coffee brand, maybe you'll sell it. Like there's so many benefits to a brand, and I'm not saying there's not, by the way, they're just different. Whereas if you've got a personal brand, you can pivot onto something else. So again, it's really powerful for someone that is just getting started out, especially. And then beyond that, it's actually really powerful to have a personal brand generally because there's so many ways you can monetize a personal brand, from ads, speaking, content. There's so many different ways you can monetize, and in this video I'm going to show you how to build a personal brand. So the first thing, and you've heard me talk about this so many times, is what niche are you fitting into? What's your reason for having a personal brand? What's your transformation statement? How do you want to show up in the world? So you might decide that you're going to create a personal brand that is very niche and has a very niche transformational statement. I was just chatting to a client this morning, and the transformational client we came up with for her was, I help women who aren't lit up by their jobs to create a career that really fulfills them. And that's the exact personal brand she wants to build for herself. So it's very, very defined. Whereas I would say my personal brand isn't so defined. I love to talk about so many different things, from the things that I eat and drink to my lifestyle, productivity, organization, Instagram, and business as a whole. So firstly, get really clear on, do you want to have a niche? If so, what is that? And how do you really want to position yourself? How do you want to show up in the world? Now, whether you decide to really niche down or you don't, it is going to be really important to think about, why should someone follow you versus that other person, that other personal brand? Because let's say you want to jump into blogging, right? You don't necessarily need the most defined niche or transformational statement in blogging, but there's a reason that you might follow one blogger over another. It might be the aesthetic, it might be the kind of things she shares about herself. There's so many different reasons. And so I want you to really get clear on, okay, if I'm not having a niche, who do I want to show up as and what makes me unique? Because if you just try and be like everybody else, that is not going to be the way to build a magnetic personal brand, especially in 2021. I wouldn't say the market's getting crowded, but of course there are more personal brands popping up every single day. And so the important thing is that you really learn how to stand out as your full self, because we're all so unique. And I think in the beginning on social, it can be, and to be honest, maybe not even just the beginning, it can be a little bit scary to just put your whole self out there, all the weird things included, because it's scary. So that's the first thing. And then this leads me on to the next thing. You've got to get comfortable looking silly or perceiving yourself as looking silly. So what I mean by that is, especially if you're in the beginning stages of building a personal brand and maybe your Instagram account really is just your family and friends, and you're ready to start showing up as a personal brand, and your friends and family are like, what is she doing? Is she trying to be an influencer? What's going on here? Or at least you might perceive them saying that or feeling that kind of way. You need to get comfortable just showing up regardless, and showing up the way that you want to with your content pillars and all the things we're going to get into. You need to get comfortable with that. And honestly, it might be a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning. Certainly was for me. I'm like, hey guys, today I want to share my coffee recipe. And my friends are probably like, where did this come from? But you'll soon grow an audience that way outgrows the friends and family that are following you, and you'll feel a lot more comfortable interacting with those people. So moving on from that, I want you to get your research hats on. I talk about this in so many different videos, but it's really important to research the kind of space that you're going into, whether you have a broad or defined niche. So what I want you to do, you know I love a spreadsheet by now, is go and create a spreadsheet and do some primary research. So go and take a look at other influencers or personal brands in a similar space to you. What do they do well? What are they doing that really gets engagement? What has helped them grow? Do they have blogs? If so, how do they structure those? Get really dialed in on what else or who else exists out there in the market. And when you've put that list together, I want you to just, you know what, grab a pen and paper, just put some lines down and start to analyze all the different people in the space and how you're going to really differentiate from those people, because that's going to be how you find your place in the market. So if it was me, I'd, you know, probably put 4 squares on a page, and I'd start to be like, okay, well, this group is for bloggers, this group is for business influencers, this group is for health influencers, whatever it is, whatever the 4 pillars that I maybe want to sit in between, I'll analyze them and I'll really start to find where I sit in the market and what unique value I can bring and offer. Then after you've thought about your positioning, and by the way, I just want to mention, if you already have a business or an offer in mind, then that's really important to bring into this research. Understand what kind of offers that other people are having in the market, and where yours fits in. I know some of you will have one, some of you won't, so make sure you're doing research on that. But moving through this, you're going to want to think about what your content pillars are if you are going to build a really magnetic brand on social. And so content pillars might be I can share some of mine. One of mine is organization. I love organizing things, whether that's spreadsheets or my kitchen cupboards or my wardrobe. I just love to organize. I'm a freak, right? And so that's one of my pillars. I love to just put my phone up, time lapse, and just organize things. And the audience that I've been able to build on social feel the exact same way. They get so much pleasure out of sitting watching me organize things, just like I do watching them. There's something about it. If anyone's watched the home edit, you'll feel what I'm talking about. So that's one of my pillars. Another one is entrepreneurial advice. I love entrepreneurship. It runs in my blood. And so one of my pillars is giving entrepreneurship advice. So I really recommend that you put together 5 pillars. And at the end, I'll let you know, I've actually got a mini course, which is going to show you how to do that, but I'll talk about that at the end. But really think about the 5 pillars that you're going to show up as, you know, time and time again, so that when it comes to planning your feed, planning your grid, you can look at it and be like, okay, that's an entrepreneurial piece of advice, that's an organizational post, that's X. And that's how you'll be able to plan your feed. So you're no longer just showing up and hoping something works. It's very much about, wait, am I really hitting all the bars here? Am I, you know, hitting the content pillars that I decided I wanted to be known for and I wanted to show up as? Next, the one thing that people find the hardest, it's consistency. This is going to be so incredibly important for you, especially in 2021. Like I said, there are going to be personal brands popping up. That doesn't mean that there isn't space for you, but if you're not going to choose to be committed, you are probably going to struggle. So I want you to choose to show up and be really consistent in everything, in the cadence that you post. So how often are you showing up on feed and stories? In the kind of pillars that we've talked about, are you really cycling through them routinely? In your aesthetic, so is everything looking consistent, or are you posting, you know, a blue and orange picture one day and a brown and green picture the other day? Like, or is it looking really consistent? Is it something that people are going to look at and be like, yeah, I really feel like I want to follow this person? Because we're all visual, we're very visual people, and we're not necessarily going to follow someone on Instagram that has an ugly feed or is so inconsistent that we don't really know if it's them. One thing that I really credit to BOSSBABE's success, and you can go on the BOSSBABE page, is our images are so consistent that you generally don't even need to see it was posted by us to know that it's one of our quotes. And I think that's really powerful in a personal brand too. So, you know, when someone's scrolling and they're seeing an image, if your face isn't in it, how do they know that it's your image? right? So which leads me to another point about creating presets or using the same presets over and over, right? If you can find a preset that you can edit your pictures with over and over and over again, it's going to mean that whether you take a picture at your kitchen counter like this or outside or in your car, if you filter it with the same kind of filter over and over again, it's going to have a really cohesive look and it's going to look a lot more consistent on your feed. So that piece is really, really powerful. And then to round this all up, this is the biggest thing that I want you to take away. You know how I love spreadsheets? Well, I also love slide decks. I want you to create a slide deck, which is essentially like a brand guide or a playbook to your personal brand. Now, inside this slide deck, I want you to list your colors. I want you to put a mood board together. I love to use Pinterest for my mood boards. I want you to put a mood board, how you want your aesthetic to look. I want you to put the different pillars that you want to be hitting. I want you to put in there your color palette, who your ideal client is, what niche you show up it as. What's your vision? What's your goal for having a personal brand? What kind of filters do you use? Really mapping this all out, even if it is just you and you only working on your Instagram account. I want you to create this playbook as if you could give it to anyone and they can go away and replicate it for you. And the reason I want you to do that is this exercise is going to help you get so incredibly clear on what your personal brand is, how you want to show up in the world, and then what that actually looks like in practice. Then you can decide what's your posting cadence, you know, do you have a content calendar attached to that slide deck, really diving into the details. That's how I manage my personal brand. It's how I help my clients do the exact same thing. And if you want to take this a step further, I've actually created the most epic content masterclass for you if you want to take the next step, and I've put all of the details below. What you can do is click the link and head to that page and it'll have all the instructions to sign up and get notified when we go live. So let me know in the comments below if you've signed up for that as well. Okay, so I hope this video was helpful for you. 2021 is the time for you to step up and create a personal brand. Like I said, now more than ever, we get to create our own security, we get to create our own stability, and it's going to be really powerful if you have an audience, if you have a community that you can monetize. There are so many different ways to monetize an audience, and if you get started right now, think about where you could be at the end of 2021. It is mind-blowing how much you could do in a year. So I really want you to think about that and dive in. Don't wait. There's no reason to wait until January to get started. Get started now so that by the end of the year, by this time in 12 months, you've made a massive change and have built an amazing personal brand. I hope this was helpful. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I've got new videos coming out every single week. And like I said, the info is below for the content masterclass. So sign up if it sounds like you're ready to take the next step.